Hey y'all, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So if you've been following my vlogs, you know that I was just talking on there on this week's past vlog, telling y'all how I was looking to give y'all a video about tips and tricks to help y'all move out, because I get a lot of questions about people wanting to know how I'm able to move out and how I'm able to do it so frequently. So if you're interested in knowing about how I'm able to do all those things, just keep watching. Okay, so first thing first, when I'm searching for an apartment, I always look for deals. So for those of you who have never even looked into an apartment, and those of you who have looked into an apartment, you do know that moving can be relatively pricey. You can have first month's rent that's due, or you have the rent that's due. You can have a security deposit that can range from 0 cents to 2 months amount of rent, and then you can have application fees, you can have administration fees. So moving can be very pricey, but for me, I tend to look on websites that I know that will offer me deals, as well as looking into these apartments. So some of the websites that I look into when I'm moving is Craigslist, Apartment Finder, and apartment.com. But my favorite is Craigslist. And the reason for that is because apartment people and landlords, when they automatically put their apartment out on Craigslist, they're automatically marketing it. So even if they don't have a deal, they'll have something that will bring you into that apartment community to even tour it. So for example, I get on Craigslist, I see a lot of posts like that will say first month's rent free. Automatically, that's a deal that you want to jump into, because that's already, depending on the price of the apartment, that's already possibly $800 off of your budget that you have to spend to move. So the cheaper you do this, the more easier and quicker that this process can go. So for example, let's just say at my apartment, I just got a great deal here. Not only did I get free cable and internet with my apartment, I also got a great moving in deal. So if you sign a lease for a certain amount of time, you got a certain amount of time free off of rent. So I don't have to worry about rent this month. The only thing I had to worry about moving into my apartment was a deposit, and anything less than paying all those things that I listed to you is always great. So I highly recommend going on Craigslist and just looking at the great deals that these apartment complexes are offering and marketing at the time. Next thing that I suggest when looking for deals is to find a sublease option. You can also go on Craigslist, and once you press the housing part of the Craigslist section, you can also go to sublease. A reason why I highly suggest subleasing somebody's apartment is because it's less money that you have to pay. 9 times out of 10, when somebody is wanting to get out of their lease, they're willing to pay even more than they had to pay to move in, because they're trying desperately to get out of that lease. Now, the one thing I will say is always ask the person that's subleasing their apartment, why are they so desperate to get out of the apartment. If it's because they recently just got a new job across the country, then you know 9 times out of 10 there's probably nothing wrong with the apartment. But if they're just moving to another area within the same town, and it's not because they had to upgrade because they're having kids or something along those lines, take that into consideration. There's a reason why they're moving out of this apartment. Next thing I would do, especially for those of you who are in college, is attend apartment fairs. So at my school, I'm not sure if this works for all schools, at the end of every fall semester and at the end of every spring semester, my school would organize an apartment fair, and all the local apartment complexes would come into this fair and would have different prizes and different marketing strategies to get you in. So for example, one apartment will say, okay, if you sign a lease with 2 other people for a 3-bedroom apartment for 12 months, you'll get no deposit due, or you won't have to do anything. Or if you attend the apartment fair and you sign if you put in an application, your application fee will be waived. So any way that you can get into your apartment cheaper, whether it's $1 cheaper or even completely free to move in, I highly recommend that you look into those things and make sure that you find great deals. I do when I'm looking for an apartment is to call around first. So once I've looked onto Craigslist and I've found the apartment that has the great deals and the great things that I want in an apartment, I call around and get an idea of what I have to do to get into this apartment. So typically I'll ask, what is the deposit? What is the what do I need to do to, well, first of all, the first question I'm going to ask is, what do I need to do to move in? So they'll say the deposit is this amount, the application process is this, and yada, yada, yada. You want to get a clear understanding of what it is to move into that particular place, because you want to get an idea and how much money that you need to save up before you can get into this place. I always say look at all of your options. So once you've looked on Craigslist or an apartment finder and you found 5 different apartments that fit exactly the need of what you need for an apartment or a house, call around, get an idea, because one apartment's application process may not be as long as the other, or they might work with you. Just make sure that you call all your options and find out what you're working with before you automatically settle with one place. Next thing I would suggest is find something that's practical to you. So for example, for those of you that do not watch my channel, I just moved back into the town that I am working at and where my boyfriend works and go to school. We actually made a big, I don't want to say a big mistake, but we made a mistake by moving 35 minutes away from where we worked and where we went to school, and we had to deal with the fact of, okay, we were paying cheaper rents, but what we weren't paying in rent, we were making up for mileage on our cars, and we were paying gas. So whereas we were only putting $20 in every 10 days, we started putting gas in our tanks every 3 days. So make sure you find something practical. Make sure it's close to your school or your job. Make sure it's something that you can afford. So for example, if you found something that says 2 months free rent, that's awesome, but the rent is $1,000 and you only make $1,500 a month, is that really practical to what you can afford? Make sure you find something affordable and you find something that satisfies your needs. If you know you love swimming and you just need a pool, make sure that you can find something that has a pool. You never know. You probably settle for something that was $10 cheaper than the option that had the pool, but the pool is what you need. So make sure you look into all practical options of where you're going to settle down at. And lastly, I kind of covered this already, but make sure you call and you ask them about all the fees that you need up front. Nothing is worse than thinking, okay, I only need $500, and you tell everybody you're about to move and you've put in your mind, I'm moving tomorrow, and you go to the apartment complex and they're like, no, you need $750. Make sure you know exactly how much you need to move into this apartment before you get yourself all worked up and you can't do it. Lastly, do your best to save the money you need. So this goes hand in hand with what I just said. Calling your apartment complex or the landlord and finding out exactly how much you need to move into this apartment. Then you know exactly how much you need to save. So you know if you need $1,000 to move into this apartment and you know you get paid every 2 weeks and you can have that money in 2 weeks, that's great. Just save up the amount of money that you need. And I will also say, try to save up more than just what you need to move into the apartment, because all different types of costs could come up. For example, if you need cable and internet, you might need to pay an upfront fee, or turning your electricity on, or turning your water on, or your gas bill, you might need a deposit. So make sure that you save up every last cent that you need to move, and even save up a little bit more. But those are my tips and tricks on moving out. I hope this video was very helpful for you. Just comment down below if it helped you out, and I will see you next video. Bye, y'all.